Okay, so the first Devo we're doing this year is from Psalm chapter 2. You may say, why Psalm chapter 2? Well, I'm going to be preaching Psalm chapter 1 in a couple of weeks, so I just skipped right to 2 so that we can cover this. Here's what it says. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. What is this that they're saying there at the beginning of chapter 2? It's basically laying out that the nations are reveling in their rebellion against God. They're laying out that they're not wanting to follow God. They have their own plan, their own agenda, and that's what they intend to do. It's the nations living out rebellion. Verse 4 goes on and says this, he who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, as for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. The Lord's response to all of this rebellion is that he is going to send a king, and he's going to use that king to hold them accountable. Verse 7 goes on and says this, I will tell of the decree the Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. We look at that and what that's telling us and what that's communicating, and it's this awesome revelatory moment where not only is he going to send a king that holds the rebellious nations accountable, but that king is his son. Wow. He goes on in verse 8 and says this, ask me, and I will make the nations your heritage and the ends of the earth your possession. What's he saying? That this son of his is going to hold in possession all of the earth, that's going to have everything as his footstool. He's the one who's going to rule over it all. And it reminds me of the time when Satan was trying to tempt Jesus, and he offered Jesus everything. And Jesus said, no, that's not the way I'm going to do this. Why could Jesus reject that? Because he knew his Father had already given it all to him. How amazing. Verse 9 goes on with this God who's coming to hold those accountable, this Son who's coming to hold others accountable. And verse 9 says this, you shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Watch this video. It'll blow your mind. Verse 10 continues and says this, now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth, serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way. For his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. The final thought here is that God will come and hold accountable those who live in rebellion. It makes us able to see that, yes, there is a God, and yes, that God has a Son who will hold things in order. And so it gives us this opportunity for us to submit to His rule, us to recognize who He is. I think it's a good God that takes time to share His authority and to share His expectations. Don't count on your misconceptions of who He is. Let Him define who He is.